hello world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Well, hello world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is Wednesday, the epicenter of another very busy, frankly, exhausting broadcast week. We are live right here on Rumble. So thankful for Owen Stevens, who is producing the show today and working the live Rumble chat. Owen Stevens, how are you? All right, I think
Sorry, I was
great.
muted. I am so great working the Rumble chat right now. People are beyond thrilled, so excited. So hopefully people will call in. Do not be afraid, people. We do not bite.
Yeah.
Call in and we will take questions. It's going to be so amazing.
They're excited about Naomi Wolf. We have Naomi Wolf in the Joy Virtual Studio. We're going to talk to her in just a minute. Bombshells coming from her amazing organization, dailyclout.io. FOIA'd communications between the White House about myocarditis, pericarditis, blood clots. As early as 2021, they knew that these COVID shots were harming people, yet they did nothing about it. Also, she has released an amazing new book, Facing the Beast, Courage, Faith, and Resistance in a New Dark Age. We're going to ask her about that as well. We're thankful for Frankie, who is also producing the show. He's working the VMix and our production team, stumbling and bumbling through our second week of a live broadcast. If you're watching on Rumble right now, please say hello in the live chat. Please leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, and share this with all your friends and family, because that helps us to grow. As you all know, the algorithms are never, ever, ever in our favor. Not here, not on Twitter. And so we need that nice organic growth so that we can continue to bring you the truth every day in a very dark age where everything is so confusing. There's so much information. It's hard to know what is true, what is false. And that's what we do every day, is we sift through all of it and try to bring it to you. We are thankful for our sponsors, The Wellness Company. Go to getwellwithshannonjoy.com. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the program. Also, our good friends over at Augusta Precious Metals. They are helping Americans move their investments from Wall Street and some of the more unstable assets to silver and gold backed investments. And they've been doing it for many, many years. We are so thankful to have them as sponsors. Also, a couple more items of housekeeping. We think that we're going to be able to release the full story with Shannon Joy, our first mini documentary, next week. We have a lot of great guests. We went back to 1963 and we interviewed the mistress of Lee Harvey Oswald in New Orleans months before the JFK assassination. We revealed absolutely horrific gain-of-function research, early gain-of-function research tied to the CIA and the medical industrial complex. It is an unbelievable story, and we're hoping to release that next week along with some amazing interviews. So make sure you're following the Shannon Joy Show. Also, the Summit for Truth and Wellness is coming up in just 3 weeks. So go to truth.com, that's summitfortruth.com, to get your tickets today. Naomi Wolf will be here live in Rochester, New York. We are so blessed to have her. Also, Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Ryan Cole, Jeffrey Tucker of the Brownstone Institute will be here October 21st live with amazing presentations, and the tickets are going really fast. So make sure you go to summitfortruth.com to get them today. There is a limited capacity at the Bethel Christian Fellowship. So make sure you go there and get your tickets ASAP. Without further ado, I want to welcome Dr. Naomi Wolf into the Joy Virtual Studio to talk about the amazing work that you've been doing over at Daily Clout, along with Amy Kelly. By the way, Naomi, Amy Kelly is coming to Rochester, New York as well, which I am so excited about. I cannot wait to see you again. I cannot wait to present you to the good people of Western New York. We're drawing from all over the country. We have people coming from California, people coming from Florida, people coming from all of the neighboring states. And we're just so thankful to welcome you here. So we're excited.
Well, one of the many things I love about you, Shannon, is that you don't just talk about it, you do it, and it's so
Oh,
impressive that you've gathered together these freedom fighters from across the country, both as speakers and as audience members. We're really looking forward to it, and I'm so excited that the amazing Amy Kelly will be joining us. She's the power behind all of these revelations from Pfizer documents, and she deserves such a place in history. And yeah, we're going to have
yes.
a lot of
Yes, she does. Well, and the collaboration is really amazing too.
fun.
The last summit that we did in the spring, we had Dr. Peter McCullough and we had Steve Kirsch. He came from California, and just the collaboration in the green room during the summit, the conversations and the sharing of information. It's just so wonderful to fellowship with people. It's an intimate venue. Bethel Christian Fellowship is large, but it's small enough where you really feel connected and you're close to the audience. And it's just, I get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm so excited, and you're going to make it just amazing. So super
Thank
thrilled.
you.
We're going to talk about, I mean, you guys have been releasing a couple bombshells, dailyclout.io, dailyclout.io. Working with an attorney, Edward Berkovich, who was able to secure, he filed Freedom of Information requests and was able to secure absolute bombshells, which you have written about extensively at dailyclout.io. And we're going to get to that a little bit later in the program, Naomi. But I want to first talk about Facing the Beast, which is the latest book that you have released. And it strikes me as somewhat of a memoir of your experience in the dark days of COVID-19, 2020, when so many of us were just hit like a ton of bricks with what we now see as totalitarianism, fascism, something far different than a public health emergency, which was how it was sold to us at the very beginning. Can you tell us the title is Facing the Beast: Courage, Faith, Resistance in a New Dark Age. And first of all, tell us why you wrote it, and then I want to go into a little bit more about the book and what was behind the book. But why did you feel like you wanted to put this out now?
Um, well, it's so first of all, thank you. I'm really excited about it, especially because some of you who follow legacy media may have noticed that I'm being subjected to my third global reputational attack, assassination attempt. They keep trying, and you know, people keep listening to my messages nonetheless, but I am being thoroughly smeared in the legacy media. So Facing the Beast really is a rebuttal and a response, standing on its own. And basically, it's a sequel to my book from 2022 called The Bodies of Others.
Yeah.
And it brings readers up to date, but it's a much more personal book. It's kind of like
Mm.
journal entries of the last 2 years, really bringing readers into my life, the life of my friends and loved ones, uh, and telling the story, which a lot of people seem interested in knowing about my being ejected from, which again is the subject of these hit pieces right now, from the other
Mm.
side, ejected from liberal legacy media for telling the truth in 2021 about menstrual harms to women from these mRNA injections.
Mm.
And then the world that opened up in front of me on this journey as I began to rethink everything I had taken for granted. And I began to
Yeah.
meet people and talk to people, you know, libertarians and conservatives and religious people and people in kind of the rest of America, quote unquote,
Right.
who had been represented to me in that bubble of the kind of liberal New York, Washington kind of elite media as, um, you know, hateful, uh, religiously fanatical
Yeah.
homophobes and racists. And sort of, so it's a series of essays, which is kind of woven into a book. Um, and I kind of address January 6th, and I address the Second Amendment, and I address,
Wow.
you know, the grieving of the trauma of the lockdowns and what we lost, and just, you know, the kind of how my whole life fell apart, and
Yeah.
I learned to rebuild it brick by brick with a completely different perspective. And also, I guess I should say, and I guess your audience won't be alarmed by this, that I do feel like the last 2 years, and you and I have spoken about this. By the way, this is the first time I'm actually describing Facing the Beast to an audience. So
Mm.
if I'm,
Oh, go for
stumbling
it.
very,
Go for it. Go
it's,
for it.
it's an exclusive. Um,
Yeah.
but I have concluded that the last 2.5 years we're still in the middle of a spiritual
Mm.
war, a spiritual test of humanity. And
Yeah.
so the book also is a documentation of my growing faith
Mm.
and spiritual convictions over the last 3 years.
Well, what do you make of Naomi? And by the way, you do operate rent free in these people's minds. I mean, the left wing news media to the point where another Naomi, slightly less famous Naomi, had to write an entire book about being mistaken for you. They just relentlessly, but I think it shows that you are over the mark. And I agree with you that this is absolutely spiritual. And that is something that I have seen. I recently had the opportunity to spend some time with Jeffrey Tucker and some of the fellows over at Brownstone Institute for a retreat. And, even some of the greatest thinkers, the scientists and the researchers and the medical doctors who are really good with the facts, and they're really good with the data, and they're really good with the analysis. And they even tend to grapple with the evil, right, and dealing with when you realize the scope of the death and destruction, what literally happened in nursing homes and hospitals in 2020, what is happening to bodies, to humans, to souls, regarding the injection of this mRNA technology, and just the devastation of their lives. When you grapple with the scope of that, you have to grapple with evil. And I do see them trying to figure out kind of where do we go spiritually with this. And so I think that your book is relevant and your discussion is relevant.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, your audience may or may not know that, well, I'm sure they do because we've spoken about it, that Amy Kelly, my COO and the project director for the War Room Daily Cloud Pfizer Documents research volunteers, this group of 3,250
Mm,
doctors and scientists who are reading through the Pfizer documents and have written 85 reports that
yeah,
are in the Pfizer book and that you can find on Daily Cloud about what's in the documents. They have revealed the greatest crime against humanity in recorded history. And I
yeah,
say that, as I always say, as a granddaughter of a woman who lost 9 siblings in the Holocaust.
mm,
It's worse than that. When we're going to see
mm,
the complete death and destruction, it's worse than that. But what they're what this team has revealed, and they broke this story, is a 360-degree attack on human reproduction. And there
yeah,
are now 1 million missing babies in Western Europe. There's a 13 to
mm,
20% drop in live births. There's mRNA, as a major medical journal has just confirmed a year and a half after we broke the story. There's mRNA in breast milk poisoning babies. The Pfizer documents have charts showing the babies getting sick from the poisoned breast milk. This baby, these many babies vomited. These many babies had swelling of the tissues. These many babies had, you know, fever. I mean, it's Nazi medicine. It's literally Nazi
mm,
medicine. And I guess to answer your question, you know, Western Europe and North America has spent the last 80 years trying to figure out how Germany in the 30s and 40s could have gone from a an advanced, democratic society with Christian values, Judeo-Christian values, to a society that would feed human beings into ovens and make lampshades out of their skin, right? And that's
right,
evil. People are trying to understand what happened, in terms of evil. Well, we're in a similar time, and it came really quickly. And if humanity is going to survive, I believe that a material analysis alone, what are the politics here? Who's the World Health Organization? Who's Bill Gates? That's
right,
not going to let us understand what's happening, because there's more than just greedy pharma and bad
yeah,
policies at stake here. There's a global intention at the highest
mm,
levels to
mm.
sterilize billions of women and injure or kill millions of babies in utero. We don't know the final number yet. To change the DNA of human beings. I mean, since I last spoke to you, two big stories got broken around this. One about Kevin McKernan, and I just went to his lab, finding DNA
Wow.
in the vials of the mRNA
Yes.
injection, and also our story, which I'm sure we'll talk about, of the White House, which you mentioned, knowing that there were blood clots and heart damage caused by these injections as far back as May of 2021. And instead of coming clean and pulling these injections off the market, they doubled down and created a script and a slideshow to spin and lie about how safe and effective these injections were, thus causing heart damage and blood clots in, you know, God knows how many more people. But I guess we're not going to understand what's happening to us without understanding that we're in a time where some kind of metaphysical evil has been unleashed. There's no other
Yeah.
way to begin to grapple with the hugeness of this. And also it's not just the hugeness, and I wrote about this a little bit in my last book, The Bodies of Others, but also like it's happening in such a coordinated way. The
Yes.
coordination at a global scale is beyond what human beings are capable of alone. So I
Yeah.
really like I've got an essay, a chapter in the book about have the ancient gods returned. Like I don't even
Mm.
think Satan is enough to explain what we're seeing. I'm Jewish, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have a very developed notion of Satan, but we certainly have developed notion of evil. And
Right.
I had to go all the way back to a pre-Christian, pre-Judaic reality when everyone understood there were these dark gods, you know, these
Yeah.
pagan forces, you know, Asherah, Baal, Moloch, you know, child,
Mm.
and they were making child sacrifices to them. Like that's the kind of dark forces I see unleashed on the
Yeah.
planet right now.
Well, and you're not alone, Naomi. I was speaking with Jeffrey Tucker was on the show last week at Brownstone Institute, and he's one that at the very beginning of all this thought it was mismanagement, thought that they didn't know what they were doing, thought that once they would figure out what they were doing, that we would course correct, that things would change. And so it's been a process, I think, for everyone to just really grapple with the darkness of all of this. That they knew it was
Right.
almost as if it's a symphony, everything working together in concert played out perfectly, and there really is no other way to look at this. It's one of the reasons that I am proud to host these medical doctors and you and Jeffrey Tucker at a church, at a holy place
Right.
where
Right.
there is, because I do think that spirituality is important. And we're going to have a speaker, Pastor David Domina, who is the pastor of Bethel Christian Fellowship, which is actually the
Wonderful.
church. No other church would host us, Naomi. And
Oh, wow.
Bethel,
Did they
historic
say
church on
why?
East Avenue. It was too
Shannon, I'm sorry to
too
interrupt. Did they say why?
controversial. Too controversial. The board was uncomfortable with the topic at hand. We talk about vaccine injury and death. We talk about COVID-19 closures, and I can say that the majority of clergy, the majority of churches in the area are not even ready to deal with this. But Bethel was. They stepped up last spring and they're stepping up again this fall. And Pastor David Domina is going to be giving a short address prior to the speakers. And I wanted to do that. That was something purposefully that I wanted to do, because I think that that's the one area that we're missing in all of this. Like, we have all the data. We have it all. We have all the facts. We have the people. We have enough people, right? But for some reason, there's still this refusal to address. Carrie Lake, and we're going to go to break in a minute. We can back. I want to get into your the breaking news from Daily Clout. Carrie Lake recently put out a tweet basically saying, you know what, we need to get over COVID-19. We could talk till the cows come home about who did this and who did that during COVID. It's time for us all to move on. And
Oh,
she
she
was
didn't.
promptly ratioed. I mean, people were livid, and she took the tweet down. About 12 hours later, she deleted the tweet. What are your thoughts before we go to break on moving on? Because all the political consultants are telling all of the candidates, Democrat and
Right.
Republican, to stay as far away from this as humanly possible, because everyone's over it. No one wants to talk about it anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the political consultants' advice is related to the response you got from churches who wouldn't touch us. They all took the money.
Right.
They took the money.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Millions of dollars from the CARES Act went to quote unquote community leaders to quote
Mm.
unquote overcome vaccine hesitancy. And I saw this in my synagogue in Great Barrington, which kicked me out because I wanted
Mm.
to see people, you know, in and celebrate Sabbath, even outdoors. They wouldn't have it. They were closing no matter what. Um,
Oh my word.
Churches, you know, up and across the country, and synagogues, maybe mosques, they all took the money and they put. It's really interesting how they did it. They had uh, health officials, like HHS officials, on their boards dictating the
Mm.
policy. So there's no way they're going to now open their doors to truth tellers about HHS and that policy and how many people were killed by it. And the same is true for both sides of the aisle politically. I'm surprised at Carrie Lake. I don't know what's going on there specifically, but
Yeah.
if she's got a big future in Republican politics, you know, they take pharma money. The Democrats take
Yes, they
pharma
do.
money,
Yes,
and
they do.
and believe it or not, I'm going to an event tonight, and it's the same buzz. I'm here in New York City, and it's you know, I haven't lived here since right before since you know March of 2020 when my husband and I realized something terrible was happening, and we fled to the country, but
Mm.
it's like a buzzword here. Let's move on. Let's move on. I tried to bring up with the hostess of this kind of bipartisan events community the fact that they were making me zoom in because I'm not vaccinated during 2021 and 2022, like refusing to let me, you know, have dinner
What?
with them in person because I was contaminated, obviously. And I kept sending her documentation that injection doesn't affect transmission. And when I
Oh my
tried to bring this up with her again, like, are you going to do this again? Or is this policy behind you? She said, let's just move on. In the literary world, they're saying, let's just move on. You know, when I
Move
wanted
on.
to write Facing the Beast, it was hard for me to find people to represent the book in New York because we're supposed to just move on. So
Move on.
it is a buzzword and it has to do with legal exposure. All these people are exposed,
Mm.
the entire media. Why are they killing me off in the media with a whole book right now?
Right.
Because the Guardian, the BBC, all the people who are running big, gigantic stories took the money and killed people. There's blood on their hands.
Wow. Wow. Well, and you are just way too close to the truth. And it is. The cover up often is worse than the crime because they do not want to be held accountable. And I'm encouraging everyone in my audience, everyone in my circles to hold the line and do not let go of this.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it will only get worse. And as we begin to wake up, as Ed Dowd predicted on your show earlier this week or earlier last week, that now that they know we know and they know they're exposed, this is when they get dangerous, and this is when we really have to band together and understand that the next shoe is going to drop. It's going to be something. They're going to try to cover this up with another emergency. We have to be ready for it. Today we are joined by the amazing Naomi Wolf. She is the founder of Daily Clout. She is leading the Pfizer document scrutiny effort with our good friend Amy Kelly over at Daily Clout. She's also the author of the newest book, Facing the Beast. I want you to go ahead and go to dailyclout.io right now to get it. We'll be back in a moment right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Welcome back. I want you all to go ahead and text JOY to 68592. That is JOY to 68592. That's going to put you in touch with our good friends over at Augusta Precious Metals. We indeed are in precarious times, and our finances are unstable. We see all of the news stories out there about inflation, the dollar, the devaluation of our currency. There is economic tumult out there, and this is why so many Americans are moving very quickly into gold and silver backed investments using their Roth IRA or their 401k. This is what Augusta Precious Metals specializes in. I'm doing this myself. I decided to go with Augusta Precious Metals because I love the company. They are all about education and teaching their customers and clients about gold, the history of gold, and how it can be used as a hedge against uncertainty. And they also don't practice the really hardcore sales tactics or the manipulative sales tactics. They just give you the information and let you make a decision for yourself. And so I'm all in, and I want you guys to explore them as well. Please text JOY to 68592. They will send you a free gold guide, and they'll get you connected with one of their consultants so that you can find out if investing in gold and silver backed investments is right for you using your Roth IRA or 401k. They've been doing it for thousands of clients. They have 5-star reviews in every ratings agency. They're just amazing. So again, JOY to 68592. We are back joined by Dr. Naomi Wolf. She is a regular contributor on the Shannon Joy Show. We're so blessed to have you. We are so blessed to have your insight, the work that you're doing with Amy Kelly. I cannot recommend dailyclout.io enough to the audience. You guys have been such great friends of my little show. And again, make sure you guys get your tickets. Summitfortruth.com, summitfortruth.com. Naomi is going to be in Rochester, New York on October 21st, and we cannot wait to welcome her here. It's going to be amazing. Naomi, you have been breaking news, big news on Daily Clout over the past week. First, in the form of 472 pages FOIA'd from CDC leaders, revealing that they knew as early as 2021 that the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines were causing myocarditis, pericarditis, and blood clots. And there was a frenzy, a flurry of emails exchanged, and then an effort to, then they freaked out, and then an effort to try to twist and turn and cover their tracks. Then after that, amazingly enough, from who you think may be a whistleblower out of the government, 46 more pages FOIA'd. And this shows that not only did the government know and government agencies know, but it showed that the White House advisors, comms directors closely associated and connected to President Joe Biden knew this as well. Unbelievable reporting. Can you tell us about how this came to light, and then let's dive into what you guys found?
Absolutely. So again, this is the kind of Watergate level reporting that should be being done by the New York Times and the Washington Post, and they're asleep at the wheel because, again, they took the money, they're compromised. So our tiny startup broke this gigantic story. Ed Berkovich is one of our 250 volunteer lawyers at Daily Clout, and he FOIA'd, meaning sent a Freedom of Information Act request to the CDC for everything related to myocarditis. And they sent him 472 pages. But I think there's a whistleblower in the CDC, or someone, and this is more familiar to me as a former political consultant, someone who's trying to get ahead of lawsuits and criminal charges by throwing the White House under the bus, essentially. And because there was an additional 46 pages that he didn't ask for. And these 46 pages, you can see them on dailyclout.io. They're right there. They're 46 pages of emails. And the emails show, and again, I used to be a consultant for the Clinton re-election campaign and also for Vice President Gore's presidential campaign. So I know what I'm seeing. And basically, there you have the email of Dr. Rochelle Walensky. You've got Dr. Anthony Fauci on the email. You've got Dr. Francis Collins, then head of the NIH, on the email, like directly, not their underlings. So these are the most senior directors of these agencies. But you also have the White House initiating the crisis response. So you've got, if you look at Amy Kelly's write-up of these emails, you'll see there's a list of about 15 senior White House communications staffers. And so what I know, and the White House, there they are, White House. The Office of the U.S. Surgeon General, White House. They're the people who are supposed to objectively keep us safe. White House. It's the White House calling what I recognize as a crisis communications meeting. And communications means, what do we tell the American people? Let's all get on the same page. And it's a crisis meeting, and the date is important. It's May of 2021. It's a
Oh my
crisis
word.
meeting because new evidence has emerged abundantly, and it's hard to see exactly what the new evidence is because 80% of these emails are redacted, meaning blanked out completely. Ed Berkovich is appealing the redactions, so we will see more. But basically, there was massive evidence of blood clots, thrombotic thrombocytopenia. It also causes problems with platelets, so blood clotting
Mm.
problems. And again, think about the blood clots, lung clots, leg clots that I've reported from another
Yeah.
source, from the Pfizer documents, are at massive scale as side effects. And also, not coincidentally, the bleeding, vaginal bleeding, the male
Yeah.
uh, UK just reported 2.5 years after I broke the story and my life was turned upside down by the White House for breaking it, bleeding
Mm.
problems in women, vaginal bleeding. So this injection does something bad to your blood, and they knew it in May of 2021. And also heart damage, myocarditis, pericarditis, serious heart damage. It doesn't resolve, it's not rare, it doesn't go away. People can die of it. I know a young adult who's having heart transplant. Actually, I know two young adults who are having heart transplants now due to vaccine-induced myocarditis. So all that being said, the White House was presented with this evidence in May of 2021. Their communications team, the people who decide what the president says to the American people, what the CDC says to the American people, what the FDA says to the American people. Again, I know the org chart. It's these agencies are not independent. They get their talking points, their script
Yeah.
from the White House communications team. So the White House communications team is freaking out, convening
Mm.
everybody, and creating, in their words, a script, their words, tough QA about COVID, their words, and tough QA in White House speak means crazy, psychotic emergency, right?
Right.
And
Right.
also they created slides. So the script and the slides are fully redacted, 17 pages of, and you can see right there, blank pages delivered. We are not allowed to see what the script or the slides are, but this went out to everyone, including the president. Remember what happened the rest of 2021? We were
Mm-hmm.
lied to and lied to and lied to, all the way into 2022 to the present, that myocarditis is rare, that there are no serious harms to these mRNA injections, and that they're safe and effective. So this was a massive cover up at the president's level.
That is unbelievable. And obviously they pushed out the talking points, but I think it also correlated and corresponded to the massive censorship efforts as well, which we'll talk about in the next
Interesting.
segment. Because tomorrow I'm having Dr. Aaron Kheriaty on the program to talk about Missouri v. Biden, which was an astounding attempt to censor some of the highest profile medical doctors. You yourself were permanently suspended from Twitter, one of the very first to be permanently suspended from Twitter. And so you could
Wow.
assume that these were in tandem. But I do want to ask you about the redactions. How, typically when you see a redaction, when a document comes out or it's released via FOIA, there are rules for redaction. It has to violate proprietary information or personal
Right.
information, or there has to be a rule to it. It's like a black line. So you have a bunch of words and you have a black line here and a black line there, or even chunks of black lines if they're getting really saucy, right, with the redactions. But how often do you see whole pages just wiped out? How
Blank.
is that? Blank, blank, completely blank.
You're asking all the right questions. I've literally never seen redactions like this. You're quite right. Usually, and I think probably legally, you see the redactions. You see the black um, bars almost across the
Yeah,
page. And there are very limited restrictions, as you say. It has to be national security or privacy. Um, there may be more conditions of which I'm
right.
unaware, but they're limited. So I've never ever seen this. White House is so disgusting. They think we won't notice if they just white out the page. So there's page
Right.
after page, and I encourage people to look at this, that are just blank. So those are redactions, but instead of black bars that you could hold up and say, look at all these black bars, it's just white blank pages with tiny, 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 tiny text in
Mm,
the upper left-hand corner saying what page it is, and that this is a redaction. So
yeah.
those the appeal to the redactions should be meaningful, but it's gross because they're not even being honest which they're legally bound to be. These records belong to the American people, about
Yeah.
what they've hidden. They hope that we won't notice that they are just
Mm.
delivering white pages as if nothing's wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's brazen. It shows
It is.
how clearly they do not fear the American people. They're out of
It's true.
control. It's an out of control White House and government. And that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to our bodies, to humanity, to our Constitution. And I commend you for finding this information, for publishing it on Daily Cloud, and the just astounding team that you have put together of mostly volunteers, which I find to be absolutely amazing. We're talking to Naomi Wolf tonight. She is the author of a new book, Facing the Beast: Courage, Faith, and Resistance in a Dark New Age. And indeed, it is a dark new age. You can grab that at dailyclout.io and all of their stellar reporting. We'll be back in a moment on the Shannon Joy Show to continue. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Sorry about that, Frankie. I thought we were going to run. The full story with Shannon Joy promo reel. I'm so excited about that. So you caught me by surprise. Today, we are joined by Naomi Wolf. She is the author of Facing the Beast: Courage, Faith, and Resistance in a New Dark Age. Also, the founder, CEO of Daily Clout, doing some of the best investigative journalism using an amazing team, but many volunteers as people are pouring through FOIA reports and pouring through Pfizer documents. This is giving we the people the truth about what is happening currently, the genocide that has occurred in the United States of America, not just with COVID-19 lockdowns and what happened in the nursing homes, in the hospitals, but also what happened post Operation Warp Speed and the distribution of the deadly toxic mRNA COVID-19 vaccines and the devastation to reproductive health, the devastation to human bodies in a whole host of ways. We know now, thanks to Naomi Wolf and the team at Daily Clout, that the White House knew about it. They knew about it as early as 2021. They freaked out about it, and then they went into full spin mode and then lied to the American people for the entirety of 21, 22, and even into 23 as they roll out a new booster, which, by the way, top officials aren't going to be taking. Who is the guy that just came out and said he is not going to be taking
Paul
the
Offit,
COVID?
what a jerk. It's
What a
Paul
jerk.
Offit, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
I
has
mean,
immunity.
because he has immunity, which really?
Right.
Really? So, like,
Right.
the spin is on. I want to ask you about, we're discussing the 46 pages of FOIA emails that were uncovered by Naomi's team. And this shows that the White House knew. They sent over massive amounts of redactions that are, highly unusual. What do you think in terms of the correlation? So we know they went into spin mode. They got their talking points. They peppered mainstream news media and even conservative news media with, the White House talking points about the safety and effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine. But it also correlates with the massive censorship, the illegal, unconstitutional, and outrageous censorship of not only you, by social media platforms. They also, attacked you, demonized you, and put that out through mainstream media. But also the systemic coordination between the White House and CEOs of Facebook and Twitter to suppress information. We know about Missouri versus Biden, Jay Bhattacharya's case, and Dr. Aaron Kheriaty, that where a judge basically found that they were violating the Constitution. What do you think about the proximity in that, and if there's any correlation there? Because I would guess that there might be some.
Yeah, well, I love talking to you because you brought up something I hadn't had a chance to think through. At the end of May was when they all freaked out. June was when I was deplatformed for talking about bleeding issues. And not only deplatformed, but America First Legal's FOIA and these two lawsuits by the AGs of Missouri and Louisiana did find my tweet right there in the kind of collusion between the White
Yeah.
House, the CDC, some of these same players, Facebook and Twitter, and they have a BOLOA, be on the lookout for my tweet, the kind of thing I was saying, warning that women were having bleeding problems, which turned out to be 100% accurate and prescient. I mean, prescient in the sense that if I hadn't been silenced and smeared globally in June of 2021, millions of women might not have horrible menstrual damage and premature or dead babies right now,
Oh
because
my
these are
word.
linked. So I think you're right. I think that this script, the and cover up, the other side of it is, well, you have to crack down and censor anyone who may reveal that there's been a cover up. And I would go further. I think what you're saying is making so much sense. I think that like the freak out is so intense in these emails in May of 2021. I think everything, the president didn't mandate till December of 2021.
Hmm.
And mandates started in September to December. The president gave his, you're going to be killing your relatives speech in December of 2021. I guess what I'm trying to say is everything subsequent could be a reaction to the cover up, right? Like
Right.
get rid of the control group, get rid of the
Right.
critics, get rid of, like, it's such a big crime they realized they'd committed by May of 21 that everything we saw subsequently in 2021 could have been an effort to keep the truth from coming out. I think you're right.
Well, and I think all COVID roads led to forced vaccination. That was the prize. That was they wanted to seize the American people and establish ownership of American bodies. And they wanted that 99% uptake rate because then there wouldn't be a control group.
There
And
wouldn't be
I
a
think
control
that
group.
was right. I think that was our first major victory from the medical freedom movement was that 25-30% of Americans who lost treasure, who lost jobs, who lost relationships, their reputations to stand up and refuse to take the jab. And I think that's the difference maker between the United States of America and much of the Western world and Western democracies. If you look at
Mhm.
Australia, New Zealand, UK, even Israel, it's about a 98 to 99% uptake. And so something uniquely American happened here. And I think it had to do with people like you, despite the censorship, which is just astounding, don't you think?
I
It just
do.
kills me.
And it makes me sad that these formerly great democracies are subjugated so quickly.
I
And I had a very chilling interview with Ed Dowd in which he was sharing the latest excess death statistics, which are stunning, from the UK. And I asked about the open borders, where another
know.
interview, my husband, Ryan O'Shea, and JJ Carell, a former ICE agent, um, JJ Carell is reporting not just millions of people flowing over the border, but specifically 86,000 terrorist or terrorist aligned individuals called
Oh my
SIAs,
word.
special interest aliens, uh, not arrested from over the border, but uh, let go, allowed into the country. We don't know where they are. And to me, this sounds like a full scale invasion,
Attack.
and I'm the daughter
Yeah.
of immigrants, granddaughter of immigrants, not a racist. This is just
No.
an observation. And
Yeah.
these things all work together. I mean, basically, what I asked Ed Dowd is, if these injections are so lethal, and my original reporting shows that China, in an MOU with BioNTech, is manufacturing and distributing them, then what we're going to see in 5 years is Western Europe and lots of North America, Australia, New Zealand, dead or disabled. And
Mm.
what's happening in Western Europe as well as in the United States is migrants who are not being forced to be injected are flowing in. And so you're going to
Yes, they
have
are.
a shift in populations. It's like he said, just wait 5 years and you'll have a completely different, you don't have to invade or bomb these countries. They'll just be different countries. There will be no more Western Europe. There will be no more North America the way we've understood them. They'll be populated by people who are used to autocracies.
Oh my
I
word.
mean,
Yeah. Well,
we
we
can
can't
paint
let that
everything with a
happen.
broad brush, but that's
Yeah.
that's really what you've got, and people who are a low wage replacement workforce who don't have the habits of citizens in a republic to make them
Right.
difficult the way we're difficult to would be oligarchs.
You,
So that's pretty
you
chilling.
know,
And the last thing I want to,
yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I
Go
just
with the
want to
last
say,
thing.
just this morning, I was researching at Steve Bannon's request the World Health Organization pandemic treaty, which actually did not pass this week, which is another big victory for us. But in my
Awesome.
research, to my astonishment, I found that on Biden's first day in office, he created an executive order that would allow a pandemic treaty. So this was always, from the very first day,
Hmm.
this was always the plan
Yeah.
to subjugate us
You know,
in this way.
absolutely. Very young, strapping, fighting age young men coming across the border. I'm looking at the images of it, Naomi,
Right.
on Twitter. And I mean, now this is what is interesting to me, though. Everyone's cheering Governor Greg Abbott, and you do kind of love it. Like they're invading the border in Texas, and he's shipping these illegal immigrants to Portland and New York City and all across the country. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, why don't you just like shut the border? Like
Right.
he's actively moving. They're crossing the border, and
Yeah,
now Greg
it's not
Abbott is
good.
moving them into the interior of the country. And
Not
conservatives are
good.
like, "Yeah, let's go." And I'm like, I don't
Don't fall for
know if
it.
that's a good
Don't
idea.
fall for it. I mean,
Um,
as you know, my husband spent, his career in military intelligence, and he said this was how special forces used to invade a country. You position them in different places all over the country, and then at a signal, their commanders can, send them
Deploy
to
them, right?
deploy them
Deployed.
exactly.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, I'm officially saying the whole Governor Abbott thing. I know everyone gets a kick out of it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
It's
I
it's
think
bad.
I think it's bad news. It's bad news. When we come back, I want
You're
to talk
you're
about.
right to notice that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I
go ahead.
I, I just want to add, I've been to many conflict areas as a reporter and, lived in conflict areas when I was living in the Middle East. And I've seen many, many refugees. And the people crossing the border do not look like refugees. They look like an army. And if you look at how
Hmm.
those fighting age men are even walking, they're walking like they know how to march.
Mm, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. Is
It
why we
should
can't
terrify
forget.
us.
Yeah, we cannot forget COVID-19 lockdowns. We cannot. I mean, This is a part of a prolonged effort, and we know the military coup d'état that happened in March of 2020. That the DoD was involved with it. That these are all countermeasures. It was never a health initiative. It was always run by the military. And so this is very important. People need to understand the stakes and what time it is. And I agree with you, Naomi, that the urgency in the political class is not there. It's not there, but it's going to take us to wake them up, and we're going to have to
Right.
demand that they address these things. When we come back to finish off the show, I would like to talk with you about Fauci being smuggled apparently into the sea. I don't know if you saw that headline, but that is astounding as well. I mean, the intrigue. Talk about. I mean, it's an inside job. Like the calls are coming from inside the house at this point. Like people need to wake up that something very, very dark is happening in this country, and it is systemic, ubiquitous. Both political parties seem to have some, at least the leadership of the political parties seem to have some hand in this. And it's going to take, I think, a massive bottom up connection and revolt, boycotts, peaceful noncompliance, civil disobedience, meeting together and resisting this locally. I think that's going to be the key to beating it if we are to beat it. I want to talk to you about that when we come back in the final segment of the Shannon Joy Show.
New details tonight on the 1963 assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. The alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was involved in a CIA operation 3 months before the assassination.
This project was said to be a covert CIA operation that was developing a top-secret vaccine and/or a biological weapon.
What they're doing is they're trying to kill Castro.
I'm just a patsy.
In 1963, the world was a powder keg ready to explode. with the CIA holding a match to fuses on every continent. From Vietnam to Cuba, clandestine operations were being waged to preserve a fascist New World Order, which emerged from the ashes of the Third Reich. Assassination teams within the CIA had their eyes on two sitting heads of state. Fidel, a few years earlier, had survived an agency-led coup d'etat. The other head of state, President John F. Kennedy, had scuttled that attempted overthrow and pledged to dismantle the agency, which was already planning his demise. U.S. soil was no longer sacred nor safe from the murderous reach of the CIA, which now reached ambitiously into the heartland of America and into the bayous of New Orleans.
Not me, however, I'm a communist.
A young girl found herself caught up in a clandestine covert operation to eliminate Fidel Castro. This wouldn't be a shot heard around the world, but rather a silent shot of super cancer-causing poison derived from a monkey simian virus called SV40. A team of fascists hell-bent on defeating communism, directed by the CIA, was formed in New Orleans. This den of vipers included the head of the National Cancer Society, the FBI's former head agent in mafia-controlled Chicago, and a paramilitary instructor who would bring in a double agent named Lee Harvey Oswald. This tale has everything from murder, espionage, a tragic love story, to bioweapons and the genesis of gain-of-function research. At the end of this, we'll have one dead doctor, multiple dead agents, and a dead president. I'm Shannon Joy. Stay tuned as I take you through the full story. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show, the full story. Hopefully, fingers crossed, being released next week. It is a wild story, and it just goes to show you there is nothing new under the sun, right? They were working on a very crude form of gain-of-function research in New Orleans in 1963, prior to the assassination of JFK. And wow, it's an amazing story, and we cannot wait to bring it to you. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of interesting interviews on that topic next week. Tonight, or today, I keep saying tonight, we are live 11 a.m. every day on the Shannon Joy Show. I'm getting used to the new time. Sorry about that, guys. This is just, the bumps and bruises of going to a live show every day. And so I'm going to mess it up. I keep saying tonight, Naomi, and it's like, I don't know, it's ingrained in me. But it is, 11:58 a.m. Eastern time, and we have the amazing Naomi Wolf with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. Such great work over at Daily Clout. Go to dailyclout.io, dailyclout.io, and support them. Also, her brand new book is out, and we want to encourage you to pick that up as well. Facing the Beast. You can get it at Daily Clout. And she's going to be with us on October 21st for the Summit for Truth and Wellness here in Rochester, New York. So a lot of really exciting things. Naomi, I want to ask you about this latest bombshell that was revealed. This is according to a senior level, we now know that, and this is official documentation, that Fauci was smuggled into CIA headquarters to influence COVID-19 origins investigation. This is according to a select subcommittee. What do you make, without record of entry, what do you make of this story? It's just breaking over the past 24 hours. I mean, that's astounding.
I mean, it is astounding. But also it isn't astounding because there's been regulatory capture from the very beginning of this story, and agency capture, and our intelligence agencies, can be captured just like the CDC and the FDA. And I'm not saying everyone is. There are good people, there are patriots, heavens knows, in the intelligence community, but this is an administration that was compromised from the start, and Dr. Fauci has been an asset of China and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation from the start. And they're the same thing, basically. And another piece of the puzzle is that this was, again, just sent to me, in 2014, Dr. Fauci published a kind of framework that in which he spelled out a pandemic and a pandemic response as a kind of model for exactly what we're seeing now, as a model for centralization of power, crackdowns on liberty, crackdowns on autonomy. And so this has been in the hands of the highest levels of government since at least 2014. So I don't know yet what to make of his having been brought in to the CIA. You know, I've been saying ever since he first was a front person for the pandemic and the vaccines that
Yeah.
he had impunity at the highest levels, which probably meant DOD. And now, you know, we see probably Intel, because he was acting like someone who didn't have to listen to the president, who could make fun of the former president, you know, on camera. As you recall, he made fun of, he made faces when President Trump was speaking. You don't do that unless you've got protection at really in the deep state, you know, for lack of a better term. And so it doesn't surprise me. I do want to just caveat that I gather DOD, I know there's been a big deal made about the fact that the contracts are DOD, and that is really interesting. However, you know, a lot of my sourcing about this stuff comes from my husband, Brian O'Shea, the Intel analyst.
Sure.
And he said that all vaccine manufacturing is sourced by the DOD because it's all, you know, under that umbrella. Okay. So I'm not sure how significant that sourcing is, but it's certainly significant that Dr. Fauci was aligning with the CIA, who, by the way, is not supposed to do anything on home soil. Remember, it's illegal for them to propagandize Americans, to target Americans. They're supposed to do everything outside of the United States. So I'm glad this came to light, but it's one more chilling piece of the puzzle that shows that there's been a takeover of our country at the highest levels by our adversaries.
Jeffrey Tucker over at Brownstone posited this theory. I was texting with him earlier today, and he's like, it hit me like a ton of bricks, because everyone's trying to piece together, like, who's wagging the dog here, right? Is it China? Is it Russia? Is it the CIA? Is it the deep state? Is it the Pentagon? Like, and this goes back to our initial conversation about the spirituality of this. Like, it's just, my husband, you know, years ago, because I come up with all these crazy ideas, and my husband, I call him devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy, right? So, you know, every time we would talk about a certain topic, I would be like, well, they are doing this, or they are doing that, because I could see the they. And at one point he's like, Shannon, who are you talking about? Who is this like mysterious they out there? And I kid you not, I said to him, like, I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, I don't know, the devil? Like, I don't know who it is. Like, it's, but you see it, right? You see that there's something there. And that's like what we're all kind of grappling with, like, you know, trying to put together these pieces. Jeffrey is another one trying to figure all this out. But he posited this theory that the CIA, it was almost like a quid pro quo, that meeting. So Fauci goes in, you know, he's in charge of the Wuhan lab. They release the, you know, the COVID-19 bioweapon or virus, whatever you want to call it. The CIA agrees to cover up Fauci's lab leak. In exchange, Fauci plays the lead role, the actor, right, in pushing lockdowns and convincing Trump, which was really important. Remember, that was the one big obstacle that they had, was convincing Trump to lock down the United States of America and buy into this whole countermeasure operation, get him to approve that quasi-martial law, and help aggrandize the security agencies in the administrative state, which was essentially the coup d'etat that Jeffrey has talked about. And they had already rehearsed this. Event 201 at Johns Hopkins University was the rehearsal for this, and that Fauci was an actor. What do you think about that in terms of a loose operating theory of kind of what happened in 2020?
Gosh, I don't mean to just contradict Jeffrey
That's
Tucker,
okay.
whom I respect as a friend.
Oh, he doesn't mind that. He doesn't mind that at all.
He doesn't mind. No, I know. I guess what I would say, kind of top of mind to that theory is, and I say this to Steve Bannon all the time when he says, how could this happen? You know, isn't the FDA supposed to, et cetera? Isn't the CDC supposed to, et cetera? the trouble to me of that theory is that it's still operating as if our agencies worked the way they're supposed to, and as if our government
Okay.
works the way it's supposed to. And what I've seen in contrast, which is probably why I'm called a conspiracy theorist, I've been in the rooms where the highest levels of decision making are happening in the country and in the world, and it's often much less formalized. It's often a group of people who form an alliance. They can form an alliance across agencies. There aren't memos. There aren't authorizations. There's deniability. I mean, people keep assuming that there's a footprint, right? And from what I've seen advising a vice president and being part of a presidential reelection, is that a lot of important decisions are made intentionally where there's no one else in the room and no fingerprints and no press release, no memos, no one recorded in the visitor's log, like it didn't.
Right.
And, things are a lot more informal at the highest levels intentionally than most people realize, which is why I'm always, analyzing backwards, as I often say as a former political consultant. Look at the outcome. So to me, the outcome could be that a handful of senior people in the Chinese Communist Party, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a handful of senior people in the intelligence agencies, and certainly the captured White House, informally decided a direction. And Dr. Fauci is the water boy. He carries the water. I mean, that's really the org chart that we see with these White House emails. Is there's a direction. You can't see who set the direction, except that it's the White House. But you can't see if there are emails from Gavi or from which is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's front group for One Health. And One Health, again, it's a Brian O'Shea find, is this framework that transcends all of us, and that the World Health Organization pandemic treaty would be based on, in which there will be a global coup, because it's like the One Health framework is animals, land, humans, all of culture, all of media, all of real estate. It's all folded into a public health framework, right? And then it sets these unnamed metanational executors over all of our heads. So to me, that's what probably happened. And I don't think you should kill yourself trying to find out exactly who the they is, because the lineaments have now emerged into view. I mean, if you look at who was, cheering for the pandemic framework at the UN, you'll see the main actors. It's the World Economic Forum, it's the World Health Organization, it's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It's all these same people over and over and over. And our intel agencies and our CDC and our White House are their handmaidens. I'm so sorry, it's 12:08. Are we booked for longer than an hour, or I just need to?
No, we got to let you go. Naomi, we'll always keep you as long as we possibly can. No, you are amazing. Thank you so much. And actually, Jeffrey Tucker, he is on that line of there's something massive and global happening here, and we have to resist it. I mean, that's the end story. It's why we're gathering in Rochester, New York. It's why we're bringing Naomi Wolf and Amy Kelly. And I also heard, Naomi, that some of the researchers are coming as well. And please let me know if any of the researchers are coming, because I want to comp their tickets. I want to make sure that we invite them and we welcome them as guests.
So sweet. I'll tell.
Isn't that amazing?
I'll tell Amy to tell them. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's so amazing. Well, they deserve it. I mean, they've helped to save humanity, but that's still a very generous, kind offer on your part. See if any of your audience in Rochester would house them too, because I know a lot of them lost their jobs because of their willingness to save humanity. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to put a team on that for sure, Naomi. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to sign off, but thank you so much, Shannon.
Yes.
Thank your producers and people. The book Facing the Beast isn't actually ready to deliver yet. It's published first week of November, but if you pre-order it on Amazon or in your local bookstore, that's important because it sends a message to the world that our message will not be silenced. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Amazing. Yes, you
Take
too.
care.
You're the best, Doctor. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. You can just sign right off. Okay. And that was the amazing Dr. Naomi Wolf. Please pre-order her amazing book. She is an absolutely amazing person. Let's pull up Owen Stevens. It's 12:10. We can go for a little while longer and get some of your feedback. And amazing. She's always, Naomi Wolf is like,
Yeah,
so
she's
much
right on.
information. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I think that the bigness of all of this is what a lot of some of the leadership within the medical freedom movement, and I'll say Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, Jeffrey Tucker, some of these bigger names at the beginning of this, mismanagement. They don't know. They're operating out of fear. This is all chaotic, and we're building the plane as we're flying it, kind of thing. And that's why everything bad happened in 2020, the shutdown of the school, the forced masking, vaccine. I think what is very uncomfortably settling into everyone is that this appears to be perpetrated. It appears to be completely planned, and we're not done. We're only about halfway through it. And that's, the amazing interview I did yesterday with, why am I blanking on his name right now? Oh gosh, I can't remember. The economist who is
Aaron Day.
Aaron Day. Yes, thank you. Is saying the same thing. Like, we're halfway through this. And that's why this whole thing about Kari Lake and the Republican Party and everyone saying, like, let's just move on is just not okay. It just can't happen.
Yeah. No, I think there's something deeper beyond the political implications, as well as even something as spike protein. I've listened to maybe 100,000 videos on spike protein at this point. So, I really just think that there are other questions about the vaccine, what's inside the vaccine, the implications from 5G, as well as some other very nefarious things that have not been answered by anybody. They haven't been brought up by anybody. And these are still the questions that I have, that many people have, because there cannot just be an agenda just to kill people. If that was the case, they would have just put poison in the vaccines and done it that way. But instead, it's a gene therapy. It's changing genes for a reason. Why is it changing people's genes?
Yeah.
It doesn't there's no answer for that question.
Well,
that's not a question that's ever been answered by somebody.
I was at a local event the other day with pastors and politicians. It was bringing pastors and politicians together. Neither of them want to talk about the vaccines. Neither of them. I'm going to be inviting all of them, at least in my local community, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, to the Summit for Truth and Wellness. I expect all of them to be there, but they probably won't, because the ruling class still does not. They just. And I'm like, listen, you might feel bad about perpetrating some of this or being complicit in some of this, but this is a humanity thing at this point. I was really glad, Owen, that Brian Hooker, who co-wrote the book, co-authored the book with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. last week in the show, was pretty big bombshell, saying that there needs to be more investigation into graphene oxide. And there needs to be more investigation into the lipid nanoparticles. I think all of that is there. The problem is right now, and like everything in this movement, it moves kind of slowly. Like we wait, you have all the people out there that are making the really big claims that sound conspiratorial. And then you have the rest of the movement kind of like waiting, but then, okay, investigating. And then you have some evidence. And I think that's what we got from Brian Hooker, was that, it officially, there's enough evidence that there may be graphene oxide in some of these vials of these vaccines, which have been studied. So we need to study it more. Problem is getting your hands on the vials and doing the research. You need to do that.
You need to answer questions about why it was that 5G came out in 2019 at the same time that COVID-19 became an actual disease, and whether or not COVID-19 is even real or it's just an effect of 5G wireless frequency radiation, which has not been answered. And there's actually a study published in the Daily Clout with Naomi Wolf, published this study that said that there are environmental factors that have been largely ignored, environmental factors that have not been considered, that include wireless frequency radiation, and the fact that we've never had a high frequency radiation like this, like 5G, emitting in these
people
low orbit
like
satellites, irradiating people. At the same time as a pandemic comes, that's never been a question that's been answered. So those are the things that we're going to have to start addressing if we're really serious about getting to the bottom of this.
Well, yeah. That means we have to get elected officials, candidates, the mainstream news media, particularly conservative media, talking about this, which is why, again, we cannot take the advice of Kari Lake, who is, I mean, crashing and burning every day, worse and worse and
Yeah.
worse, to forget about this and move on. And that really is the advice of the rest of the conservative media. Let's go to any good comments. Oh, a lot of you are popping in on the live chat.
So many people,
CJP
yes.
Rumble is here. So many good comments. A lot of new faces. So good to see all of you.
One comment that I would read. I can't remember who did it. It was a while back, but the comment was that why at this point is there not an effective treatment for spike protein removal? Why is it so difficult to remove mRNA? Why is it so difficult to really cure what's happened to people? And, I think that's an amazing question. I think that's something that also needs to be discussed more about why we can cure a lot of things. And with science, we can really do a good job at detoxing. We know that there's heavy metal detoxes that have existed for a very long time. But why is it that it's so difficult to remove the mRNA? And I think it's fundamentally about the gene change that takes place when this mRNA enters the cell and whatever else, graphene oxide, whatever else, the spike protein, or whatever else that's in this vaccine that they're not telling us, a technological aspect that's been unexplored as to this point that makes it so difficult to remediate in people.
I mean, we're right in this. Yeah, that's above my pay grade. That's when I have the docs on to try to figure that stuff out. McCullough, Macus, Malone, but I agree with you. I mean, there are so many questions out there.
Yeah, there's so many mysteries about it. And we really have to start, like I said, somebody like Peter McCullough, needs to be asked this question. He needs to be asked questions. And I think it's our responsibility to do that, because we need to make sure that nothing, like if I'm 23 and if I know that there's something clearly nefarious that's going on that's not being addressed by people that should be addressing it, then it's concerning to me. I shouldn't know more or discuss more than a top doctor in his field discusses or chooses to discuss. That's never something that should happen, because I don't know anything. So it's problematic.
Well, the good news is that here in the United States of America, there is some semblance of pushback. And as we heard from Aaron Day yesterday on his program from the financial aspect, I do think that the next event will be economic or financial. I don't think it's going to be as bad as everyone thinks it's going to be, but I think it's going to be tough, right? But it's interesting to hear that 3% of Americans moving some of their assets out of cash and into gold or silver physical, or gold or silver back investments, or land or crypto could have the impact of bringing all of this down. And Aaron is a brilliant fellow. I mean, his book is amazing. With the amount of depth and detail that he goes into actually what crypto is and what Bitcoin is it is no surprise that BlackRock is now trying to take over Bitcoin. Have you seen the headlines on that they are going in and trying to but that doesn't mean that crypto can't still work. So it's just, the whole thing is fascinating.
You tweeted something about, actually, I wanted to go into it, ask you about, you tweeted that, it was a great tweet, Chase Bank had started refusing to accept crypto as a form of currency. So it seems as if there's some sort of plan to, it's weird to see that. It doesn't make any sense. And I do think it probably links into CBDCs and the fact that the Fed now wants a centralized digital currency, and that crypto is a very, very serious problem for the CBDC agenda.
Oh, absolutely. And they're trying to take down the crypto agencies. Yeah, I think that, to Aaron's point, remember, Agenda 2030, the UN Agenda 2030, means that they're done by 2030. It doesn't mean that they're starting it in 2030. I think that's really important for people to understand that, COVID-19, we are in the midst of the reshaping of the globe. We're in the middle of it. COVID-19 was the first shot, pardon the pun, and the economic collapse is going to be the second major impact event. Now, the fact that so many Americans now are invested in gold and silver through their retirements, that they are invested in physical gold and silver, that they are saving money instead of spending money. That remnant, that 25-30% of unvaccinated, they are awake. They're building the parallel economies. They're investing. They're boycotting and boycotting as we speak, and they have been now for 2.5 years. So there's a very robust resistance that's going to make it much harder for them to fully collapse the economy. Are they going to
Mhm.
try? I think that they are. But there is so much. This is why, I mean, for those of you watching right now, this is where you come in. I mean, this is by no means over. You don't have to wait for a presidential election. I don't even know if we're going to have a presidential election at this point. Everyone's mired in like
Yeah.
DeSantis versus Trump, Carrie Lake. I mean, that's all up in the air. But good news. Here's the good news. We won the Revolutionary War. We won our freedom and our liberty at the founding of this country. And we didn't have elections at the time. So it can be done through people organizing from the local level. You don't necessarily need to have candidates. It would be nice if we did. It would be nice if we had candidates that would address this. It would make it much easier for us to do the hard work that we're going to be tasked with doing in the next 3, 4, 5 years if we want to win liberty. But
what do you
the worst.
what do you think?
Go ahead.
What do you think of DeSantis now? It seems to me like he's largely finished and done.
No, are you kidding me? That you every time you come in here, Owen, you must be on the feed loop of the MAGA propaganda.
I'm not.
You must be on some email list or something.
Oh
those
yeah,
are the
on
talking points.
Trump's email list, Truth Social or something.
Those are the talking points. Listen, Carrie, everyone. Oh, DeSantis was done 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago.
I agree.
He's not done. We're gonna start this process in Iowa, and we're gonna move it through New Hampshire, and then we're gonna move on to the South, and we're gonna see what happens. But the Trumps are very, very, very invested in making people think that DeSantis is done. What was there a headline about Vivek? There was some big poll. That's what it was. Some big poll from New York Post.
A guy whose last
name
is
New York
Ramaswamy.
They're bought and paid for.
A guy whose last name is Ramaswamy is doing better than Ron DeSantis. His last name is Ramaswamy. Like that
According
to me,
to the New York Post.
It's over.
Bad source.
That's not my source.
Fake
I mean,
poll. That's where
listen,
it's coming from.
There can be miracles.
I'll bet you $1 billion that Ron DeSantis will be in it through New Hampshire. There's no going away.
I'll take that back.
This is pretty much the strategy. They're just slow and steady as you go. They're raising money, building up the infrastructure, rolling out. He had a couple great interviews. And believe me, I'm not a Ron DeSantis fan at all. I am not a Republican. I'm an independent officially. So I'm just kind of reporting on this. But you guys know my umbrella theory that an election between DeSantis and RFK Jr. is way better. It signals that we're moving forward in this country than an election between Trump and Biden, the two very old octogenarians that put us in this bad position in the first place. So if we as the American people are going to elect them again, we're crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
RFK would be a wonderful candidate for a lot of really good reasons. He's got to correct his stance on abortion and a couple of other things. But other than that, yeah, I absolutely think that he's wonderful.
Here's the thing. This is what conservatives and religious people do. They tie themselves and they focus exclusively on the life issue if it's in the uterus in an unborn baby. But when the U.S. government and our administration is aborting full-grown human beings in nursing homes, hospitals, and by poisoning them through mRNA shots, and the pro-life movement or conservatives who are pro-life don't care about it, then that shows me it's a hypocritical movement. It's a dead movement. And that's why I'm not gonna bust all over RFK Jr., who is doing more to save, human beings who are outside of the womb than any of them.
I could say it's hypocritical for RFK. I could say it's hypocritical for RFK to be running an organization called Children's Health Defense while he supports killing children in the womb.
That's true. And I would say that it's hypocritical for March for Life people to talk about protecting unborn life when they have nothing to say about full-grown human beings and children who are being sterilized, murdered, and absolutely decimated by a COVID vaccine.
Yes.
So that's where the conservative movement needs to be. It's a life issue. So let's 100%. All stop being hypocrites. Let's, 100%. And that's where I get annoyed with conservatives who are like, I can't vote for RFK Jr. because, really? Have you been living for the past 3 years? This is bigger than that, and I think that we need to, from my perspective, this is a all of it works together: euthanasia, abortion, and then the systematic genocide of human beings in the COVID era are all linked together.
There's not a whole lot that's bigger than trying to save unborn babies. That's a pretty big issue. to be wrong on that issue is to be wrong on the biggest issue, which is life valuable? So he's incorrect.
I think all life, unborn babies, toddlers, children.
Yes.
Our elders. I mean, the 10 Commandments: honor your mother and father, honor your elders, and we're committing, elder
Don't shed
abuse,
innocent blood.
And right, so let's not. And that's really what frustrates me when I go to events and people wear the pro-life mantle and use it almost as a protective barrier, right, for them. You know what I mean? Like they use it, and when they're not being honest brokers about this, and they're not addressing these issues, it really irritates me.
Yeah, if they
but that was a lively
data,
debate.
like, yeah, it is a very, 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 and if they could see the data on the vaccines
sparring.
and the miscarriages, the miscarriage issue with the vaccine is enough, I think, to ignite the pro-life movement and total opposition.
Where are they?
And,
where have they been?
I know.
Where have they been?
It's sad.
Yeah,
Get your act together.
Well, they're taking. I don't want to say. Listen, the left has cornered the market on the grift, right? And we know how Al Sharpton does it, and we know how the left does it. And once the issue becomes a moneymaker, and you have people making money and their living is on the issue, right? Then they always, So the whole, I'm a little bit soured on a lot of that, given what we've seen here, especially here in New York, the belly of the beast, for the past 3 years. So, we just need to move to a spot of truth. We're not in truth right now. That's the thing. Once you're in truth, you can address all of these issues. And I honestly think that RFK Jr. could come around to this issue. He's his handlers right now, I think, are advising him not to. But DeSantis is the same. DeSantis has handlers too that are advising him away from certain issues.
And even Trump,
we need to get the handlers and the consult. Oh, he's terrible. Trump's bad on everything.
He's not good on life right now. He said some sketchy things. Yeah, so everybody needs to get their act together in general about the life issue.
I agree.
But there's a lot of things that are really important this election cycle. I mean, we're talking about the soul of our nation, child trafficking. We're talking about a whole other realm of issues. Not to mention the fact that our world is basically run by pedophiles, and we need to fix that. These are the things that are going to be exposed, I think, probably in the next election cycle. Going to be brought up and really.
Well, listen, Bones Mama 1 says if we don't fix our elections, none of our opinions or worries even matter. Well, Trump himself is saying that the elections are rigged. So this is the hypocrisy of the time that we live in. This is the absurdity of the time that we live in. Donald Trump is saying, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. He's also saying that you can't trust any of our elections. They're all rigged and they're all stolen. So where do you go? This is why I'm telling people you've got to get out of the elections as being the only way to save yourself and the only way to save the country. Because if the elections are corrupted, if the voting machines are corrupted and we can't get free and fair elections, then we're going to have to figure out another way to earn back and fight for our liberty. That's why I talk about localism, because you don't want to put all your eggs into one basket.
Right.
And the electoral basket is a very precarious basket to put your eggs in. Okay. Owen, we got to go. It is super late. But this is fun.
Good way to finish the show, though.
Absolutely. I would get the blood pumping and a little bit of debate and discourse going. Okay. So next week, guys, we're going to have such an intense week. We have, who do we have? Malone. Yes. We have Dr. Robert Malone, Jeffrey Tucker. We're working on Dr. Ryan Cole. We're also
we have Bobby and Cox.
We have Bobby and Cox. We're also bringing in, and tomorrow we have Dr. Aaron Cariardi. He is the Stanford professor, medical doctor who was canceled for questioning the ethics of forced vaccinating people back in the early days of COVID-19. He is also the not co-plaintiff, there are many plaintiffs, but he is along with Jay Bhattacharya on Missouri v. Biden. So he's going to give us the ins and outs and the details on that case and where it's going. And just a brilliant fellow. I cannot wait to have him on the show tomorrow. And then we're also going to be rolling out next week the big SJ mini doc, the full story, where we go into New Orleans in the hot, steamy summer of 1963. And I mean, it's a nasty story. Let me tell you, that early crude gain of function research was nasty.
Crazy.
Nasty. But it's quite the story.
Wait.
So that's super exciting. There's so much going on. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up right here on Rumble. Follow the show so that you never, ever, ever miss a show. We are constantly bringing in the best, the brightest, the most courageous guests on the face of the planet. That's the brand of the Shannon Joy Show. That's what you can expect every day. We will be back tomorrow. Oh, wait, before we sign out, we have to talk about the wellness company. Don't go anywhere. Go to getwellwithshannonjoy.com, getwellwithshannonjoy.com. Here's the deal. We cannot bring the show to you every day with our production team and everything that we're doing without the sponsorship of our amazing advertisers. And the wellness company is unbelievable. You know, Dr. Peter McCullough, he is the chief scientific officer over at the wellness company. He's overseeing the telemedicine and the supplements and all of the services that they provide at this amazing website. Go to getwellwithshannonjoy.com. That is getwellwithshannonjoy.com. Make sure you use my promo code ShannonJoy to get 10% off everything. Okay. This is the parallel economy. There is a crumbling healthcare system. You see it in your own backyard. You know that your mom and your dad, no one wants to go to the hospital. They don't trust their doctors anymore. And this is this is the fallout of the lies that were told to us during 219, 220, 221 and beyond, right? People don't trust their healthcare providers. So there has to be another alternative. And that's where the wellness company comes in. Telemedicine, telehealth, pharmaceutical help. They have a Freedom from Pharma program, medical exemptions for vaccines. They have licensed medical doctors in all 50 states ready to help you. If you believe you've been injured by a vaccine and you need a medical exemption, you can go to getwellwithshannonjoy.com and get that, along with great products like their emergency medical kit with prescriptions, including ivermectin. They have it all. We love them. GetWellWithShannonJoy.com. That's GetWellWithShannonJoy.com for peace of mind. Thank you all for being with me today on the Shannon Joy Show. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again.